Oliver and his brake van, Toad, liked working in the big yards, but one morning Toad noticed that Oliver was unhappy. He decided to find out why. "Excuse me, Mr. Oliver, it seems to me that things are not well with you, if you forgive me for mentioning it." "You're quite right, Toad," replied Oliver. "All I do is shunt these trucks onto the turntable. I long for a nice run. It's what an engine really needs." "Quite so, Mr. Oliver. May I suggest that you speak to the Fat Controller about your problems?" Oliver just grew unhappier, and he was rough with the trucks. "You're no good, Oliver. You're dangerous. We want Percy." "Pah, Percy's far too busy to be bothered with the likes of you." And he bumped the trucks hard. "You silly engine!" shouted a workman. "It'll take a long time to repair this turntable, which'll cause confusion and delay." That night, the Fat Controller came to see Oliver in his shed. "Oliver, you have caused confusion. I thought you could control trucks. You shall work the mail train for a while. Maybe the night air will clear your smoke box." "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir," said Oliver sadly. "Cheer up, old chap," said his driver. "The mail train run is a grand run for a fine engine like you." Oliver smiled, but he still felt he'd let everyone down. His driver took them along the coastal run with the mail train. The sea was calm, and the fresh air couldn't help but brighten Oliver's spirits. They made good speed until it was time to collect some important mail from Harold the helicopter. "Come on, Harold." They waited and waited. At last, Harold landed. "Sorry I'm late, Great Western. Had a bit of a problem with one of my arms. Kept letting me down when I was meant to be up. You know how it is," said Harold. "We know that we'll be late for our first run," replied Oliver's driver. Soon they were on their way again. Ahead was a red signal light. Oliver didn't realize that the signalman had dozed off waiting for them. Oliver whistled several times, but the signal stayed red. "There must be something wrong with that signal. We'll go slowly and stop by the signal box," said his driver. But they never reached it. The points before the signal box were switched to an old track. They were going the wrong way. Oliver's fireman was concerned. "We need to find a water tower soon." Instead, they saw an old rundown station. Disaster lay ahead. Meanwhile, the Fat Controller was very worried. "Oliver has not returned. We had better send out a search party." Soon he was high in the sky with Harold. "There they are." "It wasn't Oliver's fault," sighed the driver. "I'm aware of that. I'm just glad you are all safe." Then he saw something. It was an empty old house beside the station. He went to inspect it. When he returned, he spoke to Oliver. "Oliver, you have found another attraction for our island. We'll make this house as good as new, and visitors can come and have tea and crumpets there." Sighed Oliver happily. Getting lost can be interesting, but being found is much nicer, especially when it makes an engine feel really useful.